introduction.
Hi, my name is Dan Miller. I'm 53 years old. I live in Fort Mojave, Arizona. I used to weigh 338 pounds, and now I weigh 199 pounds.
In my opinion, eating healthy means
Being conscious basically of what you put into your mouth, living foods, beans, legumes, nuts and seeds, that type of thing. Staying away from refined foods, animal proteins, dairy, staying away from that kind of stuff.
my biggest challenges to eating healthy are
Well, my biggest challenges to eating healthy were just first making the decision to eat healthier. Then it was expanding into that and realizing that it's a lifestyle. It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle change and acting accordingly.
my top tips for eating healthier are
Well, I guess my first tip would be to do a colon cleanse. At least that's what I did because I was quite constipated when I first started. Then the other thing is I had to learn the tools of the trade, so to speak. One of the things I wanted to get into was juicing. And we got a really good juicer, a Breville juicer, and it's a wide mouth juicer, so you can put vegetables in it really easily and juice really quickly. It's easy to clean up, and that's a really good tool to have. Another tool of the trade is an immersion blender, which allows you to stir up soups and mashed potatoes, make them easy, make hummus, things like that. Really love those tools of the trade, so to speak.
my top tips for feeding my family healthy foods are
Well, my top tips for eating healthy and helping my family do it is just doing it for myself. Because once I did it for myself, I found that people would naturally be attracted to that. Because I believe that that's really the trend in the area, in society right now, is true health care is what I call it. And so you need to find good places to eat good foods. I live in the desert, so we have to, search out a little bit to find really good foods. We have a place called Bountiful Baskets. It's a volunteer organization where I can volunteer and you pay and have stuff trucked in. It's like a food co-op for us. And it allows us to get together with other families and stuff and have a community, which is really good to help support and, each other. It's really great.
in a day. I typically eat
Well, in a day, I typically eat, like today, I'll have fruit for breakfast, and then I go into having vegetable juice in the later morning, early afternoon, and then by the afternoon around 3 o'clock, I'll have nuts and seeds and a cacao drink is what I call it, or I'll have hummus and carrot planks or whatever, and then in the evening we usually have a big salad with roasted vegetables, or I'll have a big salad and have chili, or we'll have Asian food, or we'll have some kind of Mexican snack. You can really mix it up. There's tons of things to eat, and you can eat quite a bit, but as you can guess, it's basically a lot of vegetables.
when I was growing up. In a day, I typically ate
Oh, I typically ate when I was a little kid. I mean, I woke up and my mom would give us fried eggs for breakfast. It was always the same thing, or we'd have oatmeal. It was either those two things. And then I'd go to school, and every day for the most part I had peanut butter and jam sandwiches with some chips and a little canister, a carton of milk. Or if I was lucky, I'd have a bologna sandwich. Then after lunch, when we get off from school, I'd sneak off to the little mini mart and I'd get candy. And I always remember breaking up the candy bar and eating it really fast and chewing it up so I'd get that sugar buzz right away before going home for the day. And once I went home at night, we would usually have a meat and potatoes type of dinner. And we had 6 kids in my family, so I mean, you really had to grab your food, because if you didn't grab fast enough, you might miss out.
when I was in my poorest health. In a day, I typically ate
Oh, I would usually eat 3 to 4 eggs, I'd scramble them and pour them over hash brown potatoes, and I have 3 or 4 pieces of bacon with that, and that would be my breakfast. And then I wouldn't eat anything until around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then what I'd have is a hazelnut latte, and I would have 3 cookies while I was reading my paper in the afternoon. Then for dinner, I would have usually meat or rice or something like this, but I love like things like chicken fried steak I would eat. And then after dinner, we'd always have some kind of dessert. I would have ice cream or whatever. On the weekends, even after that, I would start drinking beer, and I would drink beer during the course of the night, and late night, on the weekends especially, I'd have a late night snack at around 11 or 12 at night, which would be like cottage cheese and potato chips, something like that, and I'd go to bed with a buzz on.
My top 3 reasons for eating packaged or processed foods are:
Well, today I don't eat any packaged or processed foods for the most part. I mean, they're super easy. You find them everywhere. They're easy to get out of the package and cook up real fast. But the problem is even the organic stuff, you don't really know how they're processing it. And so I prefer today to process my own foods because I know what's going into my body. It's part of being conscious about what you're putting into your mouth.
I decided I needed to improve my diet because of...
Well, I had a lot of problems. I had sleep apnea really bad. I would get migraine headaches all the time, and I would fall asleep during the afternoons. I had a lot of sexual dysfunctions. I couldn't even bend over and tie my shoelaces, and it got really bad. And I remember one day we were over at a strip mall, and they had a scale over at the strip mall that was a quarter scale right by the bathrooms, and I got out of the bathroom and I went over to the scale and I weighed myself, and I couldn't believe it. I was like 300 and almost 40 pounds, and I went into a state of denial right away. I just couldn't believe it, and my wife was coming out of the bathroom. I didn't want her to see, so I jumped off the scale, and I remember leaving there and just being pissed off because I wanted to have my Snickers Blizzard and read my paper in peace, you know, and I didn't want to know that I was that heavy and obese. I just couldn't take it. But it got to me, and I remember going home and going to bed and waking up in the middle of the night, and it's like my spirit came to me and said, you know, you're getting to your 50s now. You need to do something about this or not. And I knew if I didn't do anything about it, that I would eventually start getting sick. I'd become a statistic, because that's what happens to people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. They start getting really bad chronic disease. So it took a while. It took several weeks of going over it within myself, but I remember finally waking up one morning and getting the courage and going off and telling my wife, honey, I'm going to quit drinking beer. And she looked at me and said, well, okay. I mean, it was no big deal to her, but to me it was a big deal because I was proclaiming what I was going to do. I was grounding into reality my decision to start on a new healthy way of living.
Healthy food is approximately how much of my diet?
Today it's 90 to 95% of my diet is healthy today.
The person responsible for purchasing and preparing food in our household is?
Well, it used to be my wife would shop for us, but these last few years I've gotten involved because I like to see the different fruits and vegetables, see how good they are, and what we can get. I just like to feel it now, what's going on with it when I go shopping. I really enjoy that.
The best result I've gotten from eating healthier is?
Well, I've lost 139 pounds.
Woohoo!
I feel really good most of the time. I mean, I don't have sleep apnea anymore. My wife says I purr like a kitten at night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm virile now.
Mm-hmm.
I can bend over and tie my shoes. I don't fall asleep during the course of the day. I can actually go out for a long walk a mile, and I don't get out of breath now. I feel really good and alive today.
when I eat more healthy foods, you feel?
I feel younger. That's the main thing. I feel like I'm in my early 30s again, and I just love it.
My favorite food indulgence.
Well, it's always been sushi. I love Asian food. I love Japanese food in particular. We used to have that a couple times a week, and now I have it probably once every few months now, I would say. But one of the things I have every day pretty much is I have my raw cacao drink. I learned to switch from coffee over to raw cacao instead, which I really enjoy, and I have it with my own roasted nuts that I made myself, and I do that while I'm reading my paper in the afternoon, and it's kind of an indulgence that reminds me of this old thing that I used to read about in the Raw Foodist Society where they said relax and enjoy, and my life's all about that now. I'm learning to relax and enjoy.